Craig and Debbie Scott neighbor us on some lease ground, and they run several head of beef cattle along with a number of woofy bucking bull cows. Craig called me last week and said it was time to turn out, but he had a new plan. Normally, they've unloaded their trucks at the Canine Ridge corrals and moved them cross country, but this year would work a little differently. Rather than use the corrals, which are not in the greatest state of repair, Craig wanted to put a loading chute at the bottom of our quarter-mile driveway, which is pretty steep, park the truck on the road with a flagger, directing traffic, and move the cattle up the driveway. I liked it. The reason I liked it was because Craig and Debbie were both going to be driving rigs, neither of which were hauling horses. That meant they'd need Craig and me to move the cattle uphill and cross country to their spring pasture. Sounded good to me. So I told Craig it was a go. The only glitch was that I forgot that we had Mustangers first thing on Sunday morning. The kids' play day wouldn't take too long though, so we'd be home by noon 30 or so. The kids had a ball at Mustangers, despite the hurricane that was blowing through at the time. Horses were falling over, trailers were tumbling through the parking lot, and an outhouse blew over. Actually, the only part of that was true was the outhouse blowing over. But it was a windy dude. Parker had a wonderful time riding Trigger. Then she headed to church with Mandy. Cray was riding old Smokey, whom I lovingly refer to as Rony Wiggles, and he and I loaded up after the dummy roping to help Craig and Debbie. I caught a horse when we got home, and Craig and I went out to check our cows, and then pretty quick Craig and Debbie arrived. Mandy had gotten home by then, so she was elected flagger. We unloaded the first truck, and the cows went up the driveway where Craig turned them quite easily into one of our bottom pastures. The calves did the same. While Craig and Debbie headed for Echo for the second load, Craig and I let the cattle pair up for a while, and then when they looked settled, we started to move them. That was the cool part. Craig has become a hand. Not only can he trot across a 40-acre pasture to turn a herd of cows and calves, he reads the cattle real well. Of course, he wants everything to be a rodeo, so I had to whoa him a bit, but once he settled down, everything went great for that little 7-year-old. He would put just the right amount of pressure on and then back off. A calf turned back when we'd gotten the rest of the herd through the last gate, and Craig took off at a dead run and turned that calf back like a working cow horse man. Then he just trotted back to me. We were headed back to the house when a storm hit. The rain fell like buckets. But not for long, because in a minute it started hailing. Both of our horses had their chins tucked like dressage mounts, and we had our scotch caps down over our eyes. I yelled at Craig, "At least the wind stopped blowing." "Yep," he answered. "I don't like this hail, Dad." "Yeah, but this is the romantic part," I retorted. "Well, then I don't think I want to be a cowboy." We both laughed, and when we got back and unloaded the second truck, moved them to their pasture and got unsaddled, Mandy had hot chocolate waiting for us in the house. I built a fire, and Craig crawled in bed. After 7 hours in the saddle, he was spent. But he'd worked a good day, and he'd been as useful as any hand I might have hired. When Craig said he didn't want to be a cowboy because of that hail, it broke my heart. He was just kidding. And so am I. On days like that, he wants to be a cowboy in a big way after we're done. It's kind of like life. When we're in the middle of a trial, we hate it. We wish we'd never gotten ourselves into this mess. But when we look back on it, it becomes one of our fondest memories, or the circumstance that built the character in us, of which we're so thankful. James 1:12 encourages us, "Blessed is the man who remains steadfast under trial. For when he has stood the test, he will receive the crown of life, which God has promised to those who love him." It's just like riding out there in that rain and hail. I used to just get all kinds of grumpy whenever it would rain like that or whenever it would hail like that. But now, I'm just thankful the wind's not blowing. Besides that, when I make it back to the house, I look back on it fondly and feel good about what is accomplished. That's the real reward. The hot chocolate is just extra. This has been Marty Campbell. Check us out at brokenhornranch.com.